Good morning, sir. Sir, today I would start with one small video, but before that, there's something that this is book number 3. In book number 3, page 85. The topic is Genesis, Growth of Fieldwork Traditions in Anthropology. Growth and genesis of fieldwork traditions in anthropology. So basically, whatever you have done in anthropological thought, you are trying to trace the events there, how fieldwork has changed, who had started with that, what were the earliest techniques, and how things have changed. We have written one trend, if you could recall, from secondary sources to primary and so on. That's what is the narration with the detail, which all thinkers have followed primary sources, secondary initially, and then who were going into the tertiary, and then who were into the fourth level of research methodologies. I have mentioned certain titles there. This write-up has ended on Robert Redfield, but you can perhaps take it forth. What you should be adding after that is symbolic anthropologists and postmodernists. I repeat what I was saying on page number 86, this particular topic, growth, genesis of fieldwork traditions. It had ended at Robert Redfield. You can add 2 more things there. One will be symbolic school, the other is postmodernism. Okay, you're fine? There are the other things also. I want you to go through this importance of fieldwork. That can be one question by itself in the exam. And some of the terminologies that are mentioned there, difference between methodology, what is a hypothesis, and then if you go to page number 88, various research, various fieldwork methods are there, interview, sampling, etc. All this I want you to do till page number 90. This you finish off today, it's not a big thing. One single reading can help you. We will be actually continuing with the spree of writing spree. But before we start off with that, some warming up should be there, for which one student was mailing me this. The question was, is there any school in Hinduism? The question was, is there any school in Hinduism that believes both in evolution and creation? Generally, the kind of statements that we have been making about religions is that most of the religions adhere to the creationism. But the question is an interesting one, for which I got a small video of somebody, a small talk of somebody. So the question was, is there any school in Hinduism that has both creationism and evolutionism? It's a small one. The first half of it may not be directly linked to the question, but as you go into the details, you will find some interesting things. I am not propagating any faith for that matter. It's only one idea.
Why did Swami Vivekananda, one of the greatest preachers of Vedanta philosophy since the time of Shankaracharya, die so young? Just like Shankaracharya, Swami Vivekananda too did not live long and left his physical body at the early age of 39. Now even though Swamiji, as he was called, suffered from many ailments such as diabetes and asthma, nevertheless on the day of his passing he was actually in good health and in a jovial mood during breakfast. So what caused him to die so young? Actually, behind the passing of every evolved soul such as Swami Vivekananda, there is a greater spiritual reality hidden which we ordinarily do not grasp. But luckily for us, Swamiji himself revealed the truth in great detail. About 6 years before his passing, sometime in August of 1896, Vivekanand confided to his brother disciple Swami Abhedanand that he was going to live only for 5 or 6 years more at most. How accurate was this prediction? For Swami Vivekanand passed away 6 years hence on July 4th, 1902. When Swami Abhedanand protested, saying a young man like him should not think of death, Vivekanand replied, "You do not understand. My soul is getting bigger and bigger every day, so much so that the body can hardly contain it. Any day it may burst this cage of flesh and bone." Now what did Swamiji mean when he said that his soul was getting bigger? Here is the explanation. The soul is nothing but pure consciousness. So what Swami Vivekanand meant was that his consciousness was expanding so much beyond the realms of ordinary human consciousness to the domain of the superconscious that the body was proving an inadequate container and would soon have to be let go. To better understand this point, let us delve into Vedanta philosophy for just a few moments. According to Vedanta philosophy, consciousness is a field which exists separate from the body. This field of consciousness is a continuum, which means that it goes on endlessly in all directions like an infinite ocean. For the sake of simplicity, I will draw it as follows. The yellow bar representing the infinite field of consciousness. Now our individual souls can be thought of as a portion of this continuous field of consciousness. Thus what we normally experience as human consciousness is only a small subsection of the infinite range of consciousness, the vast majority of which lies beyond the realm of ordinary human experience. Here I would like to point out that many times what we call as paranormal or psychic phenomena fall in this zone. This is similar to light, where we are able to see only a few frequencies out of the full spectrum, but certain insects such as bees can pick out many more colors. Now Vedanta tells us that different living beings experience different portions of this one continuous spectrum of consciousness. Take for example the ant. Compared to us, it has significantly lower amounts of consciousness. An ant is not aware of the traffic jam outside, nor does it worry about picking the kids up from school. In other words, the soul of the ant is in a state of restricted consciousness or limited awareness about the world. Many things exist beyond its ant world of which it is completely unaware. Now let us say that the soul or consciousness of the ant expands so that it becomes aware of more things. Then Vedanta tells us that the soul of the ant will find the small body and brain of the ant as insufficient to express its greater consciousness, and therefore it will manifest for its purposes a better body, say that of a cat. So according to Vedanta, this is how evolution happens. Underneath the chain of physical evolution of species is the spiritual reality of an expanding consciousness. This expansion of consciousness is the real engine which propels the entire train of biological evolution. Now in the evolutionary chain, you do not jump directly from an ant to a cat. Rather, there are many small evolutionary steps in the middle, but this is just an example to demonstrate the idea. In fact, in Hinduism, the soul is said to traverse through 8.4 million life forms before it attains to a human birth. But human beings too are not the final step in the evolutionary chain. In the case of human beings, our consciousness or our soul has gotten significantly bigger than that of animals, but it is still restricted. In fact, still beyond the realms of ordinary human consciousness lies a specific state of superconsciousness where our soul has become so enlarged that it has become infinite. In other words, from being a little portion of the ocean of consciousness, it has become the whole. This state, where the soul has become one with the infinite ocean of consciousness, also known as universal consciousness or God, this state of the soul is called by different names in different religions. In Hinduism, it is called Samadhi. In Buddhism, enlightenment. And in Christianity, salvation. The names may be different, but they all mean the same thing, and that is freedom or liberation from the evolutionary cycle of birth and death. For in this ultimate state of superconscious Samadhi, the soul is finally free. Its infinite consciousness can no longer be confined to the finite body, and the body is let go. This state of Samadhi was attained to by Swami Vivekanand, by his Guru Sri Ramakrishna, by Sri Aurobindo, by Ramana Maharishi, and in our present times by my highest Guru Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. This state of superconscious enlightenment was also attained to by Jesus and by Buddha, and this final state of freedom alone is the goal for all of us right down to the little ant.
First question is, how did she know that the listed people, with due respect, have attained salvation? I think that definitely cannot be proved. It only is based on a trust, of course, trust and faith. But what I like, is my mic working, sir? What I liked in the whole thing is the way she explained how the container is insufficient. As you grow in awareness, as you grow in understanding of natural and supernatural worlds, when there is limitedness of the space within your own body, you tend to go into the bigger bodies. And what is much more interesting is the number of life forms she actually is mentioning. So each and every life form would have to go through all those. So I was wondering, if that is the case, why is it that several life forms are depleting? If more and more life forms have to, if every soul has to undergo all those life forms, so you should be having, because I don't know, maybe we will have to go for a timing system also, where all the souls must have started. How much time has happened and what is the stage at which we are, how many species are right now there, etc., etc. But then at a very fundamental level, I thought that if all those stages have to be passed on by the individuals, or maybe that most of us have passed all that, and that's the reason why human population has increased and they have depleted. I don't know. But then the whole point is, there is this interesting idea of a soul attaining the characteristic of the super consciousness. Now keep these things in mind, we will come back on them when we go to a comparison of, and when she was mentioning, she did, I don't know why she was trying to put the other religions also into Hinduism, along with Hinduism. I always feel bad about this. Mention any religion for that matter, you bring them as Hindu gods. Buddha is a Hindu god, Mahavira is a Hindu god, Christ is also a Hindu god. In fact, he is one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. Why? What's the sin that was committed by Allah alone? You're incorporating every other god and letting us aside. No, that is actually a discrimination. So discrimination is not simply there at the human level, but at the God's level also. Today we will be dealing with the topics primarily approaches to religion, various anthropological approaches to religion. We have just initiated this in our previous class. I think we were trying to write things there. Your syllabus mentions religious approaches, two approaches rather. One is evolutionary approach, that is chapter 5, paper 1, and second one is functional and psychological approach. At several other places we have actually spoken about evolution and things like this. So let me tell you what we are going to do in the next couple of days. We are now starting with approaches to study religion. By the way, I have posted 2 articles in the Dropbox, both of them on religion. One of them is an extract is actually a scanned copy from one of the ISC books on the topic of religion. The other one, I have titled it as Approaches to Religion in Anthropology. I want you to go through those 2 topics. And some of the maps are there in that school extract, where you can see the expansion of religions, individual religions, which can be used at several other places. So we will be starting with this. So that is approaches to religion in anthropology, and then we would write a short note on myths and rituals in anthropology, and then symbolism in religion. These are the 3 things that you would be doing today. There is one very lovely topic the question I want the UPSC to give, called taboo, written either as TABU or TABOO. In fact, this term is mentioned in one of the places in your syllabus in the topic of marriage, where he used incest taboo. And that's where people make a mistake also. Suppose a question like a taboo is asked, examiner is not asking you to simply write about incest taboo. There can be several kinds of taboos. Taboo is something like what is forbidden. The forbidden things may be in the context of marriage, maybe in the context of food. We call them food taboos. That was also a long time back one question, food taboos. We will be looking at food taboos in detail in a topic called nutritional anthropology. Culturally, there are certain banned forbidden foods, and that might result in some kind of disease conditions. So this could be one. Several other kinds of taboos also we are going to address in that topic. So that's where we would be going in different directions in your syllabus. So in today's class we have the approaches. We would be writing on ritual and myth, and then we would see symbolism in anthropology, and in the next class we would want to go for taboo, and we will also be writing about sacred and profane. These are the questions that are important but difficult to score, sacred and profane. I also would be dealing in the next couple of classes about magic, sorcery and witchcraft. Somehow more than religion, witchcraft is more near to my heart. Witchcraft and there's some movie XYZ where a building was actually constructed keeping in view the negative forces and how to welcome the negative forces. मैं बताऊंगी आपको मूवी का नाम क्या है. Yesterday only I was watching. Thanks so much. బంగారం నువ్వు చాలా నచ్చావు నాకు అసలు. Villa. Thank you so much. I don't know whether it is a Telugu film or it's a dubbed one. I don't know, but dubbed one है शायद. So that tells us what a metal can do. Why is it that temples are actually having golden plates there, and what happens if certain other metals are used? All those kinds of things. Whether witchcraft is something that is unscientific, and can witchcraft be a scientific one? So I'll be trying to show several clippings from such kind of discussions and movies so that you would understand the details out there. And then what is the difference between a sorcery, a magic and a witchcraft? Religion to khair religion rahega hi. We can keep it aside for all impractical purposes. Those are the ones. And then a continuation with religion will go into the statistics related to various religious groups in Indian subcontinent. That means that census 2011 and census 2001. Before we discuss them in the class, I'll be posting the basic details to you so that you come prepared for questions like, is there any link between a religion, social indicator and economic indicators? Religion, social indicator and economic indicators. Long time back, general studies used to ask these questions. Is there any indicator link between economic and social indicators? But I'm adding one more parameter to it: religion, economic indicators and social indicators. And then we would be taking you to various religions to which India was exposed. That's where we are. So we'll be starting with the first one. Except for thinkers like Durkheim, we have spoken about them in our classes sometime or the other. So we are trying to extract to suit the answer to this particular question. एक और mail आया था, I think yesterday. And if somebody is there from that, you can tell me. ये question बताओ. evolution of brain kind of thing. So these questions also I will be handling in the next couple of days. कभी कभी क्या होता है ना, when we do things in the class we think that we have understood, but when we start to write you do not actually. The same Ramayana can be described in a huge volume and in 3 words, katte kotte techyai. That's what is Ramayana's story, the entire thing. So the same thing can be, I think that's the beauty of it. How you should be able to express the same story in the shortest length and in the most voluminous way. So I'll address yours in the next couple of days. So we will be starting with this one. Approaches to study religion in anthropology. Approaches to study religion in anthropology. Approaches to study religion in anthropology. Anthropological theories on religion. Anthropological theories on religion are concerned mainly with examining the content of various conceptions of, write in quotes, supernatural. Most often, religion is defined as a belief in supernatural, right in the brackets, forces and beings. Beings, B-E-I-N-G-S. Cross-cultural studies indicated a difference in understanding what a supernatural is and what constitutes supernatural forces and beings. As anthropological thought evolved, the approach to study religion got modified along with the approach to study culture. Because religion or worldview by definition forms a significant part of culture. Right in the next paragraph. Approaches such as evolutionism functionalism of Durkheim, Durkheim, functionalism of Durkheim, comma, of Malinowski and Farsi Brown, extensively dealt with religion from different perspectives. The initiators such as Tyler did not distinguish between magic and religion, while functionalists and Morgan and Fraser, tried to differentiate based on the subject matter and the nature of the entity. Right in the next paragraph. For schools like culture personality, study of religion was significant. As the worldview plays a key role in setting the value system of the culture group. Thereby impacting individual personalities. There have been differences in the conception of religion, from an individual and a societal perspective. For example, for Malinowski, a religion could be one of the mechanisms of bringing together several individuals, while for Brown, it may form a general structure within the social structure. by being a general social structure, a religion can provide a basic frame of the society. Right, the first one there. Evolutionary study of religion. Evolutionary study of religion. Three prominent thinkers. That is Taylor, Fraser, Marett, M-A-R-E-T-T, Marett, are considered in evolutionary explanations. Continue writing there. Naturalism by Max Muller. Naturalism by Max Muller, M-U-L-L-E-R. Though not evolutionary, in most of its explanations, is placed under evolutionary approaches due to its focus on emergence of belief in the non-human and supernatural powers. Right in the next paragraph. Taylor provided the earliest school of evolution of religion. According to him, although the origins appear to be multiple, there is a single unifying idea. There is a single unifying idea of belief in souls, or anima. Hence his theory is called animism. Continue writing. According to him, the theory of animism divides the understanding into two prominent views. One, concerning the souls of individual creatures, that is capable of continued existence beyond death and destruction of the body. Secondly, concerning the other spirits, extending the rank of powerful deities. Right in the next paragraph. It meant that souls exist not simply in the human body, but outside of it. Either in animistic or non-animistic beings. The idea of souls existing in non-living individuals and non-humans was brought out by rethinking a method by Taylor, wherein he thought that the primitive man was confused and curious about sleep and death. He brought out a rational man from a primitive man. He brought out a rational man from a primitive man through logical flow of ideas. For Taylor, the origin of religion is based on three propositions. Number one, a religion developed out of fear. Secondly, though the conservatives think that religion is the product of civilization, there is a convincing proof that all societies, whether modern or primitive, have their own versions of religion. Right in the brackets. He went to the extent of hypothesizing that all religions are more or less similar in the core matter, close the bracket. Thirdly, all religions consist of a mental attitude and a psychological understanding of supernatural. Right in the brackets. The earliest writings believed that religion cannot exist without a belief in supernatural. Continue writing in the bracket. In the contemporary times, the word religion is substituted with, write in quotes, the worldview to signify how different individuals or culture groups explain the natural and extra natural. I'm not using the word supernatural. Natural and extra natural realms. Extra natural realms. REALMS. Close the bracket. Keep writing. The ideas of Taylor, write in the next paragraph. The ideas of Taylor were criticized for being speculative, and for making the primitive man a thinking and a rational man. Continue writing in that paragraph. Taylor tried to provide an evolutionary sequence of religion from animism to totemism to, instead of to, you write an arrow mark there. Animism to totemism to polytheism to monotheism. In animism, Taylor incorporated an understanding of souls, with a conclusion that all things of the world are endowed with a soul. Are endowed with a soul. In totemism, he referred to the religious practices that are centered around animals, plants, and other aspects of natural world that are held to be ancestral or closely identified with a group and its individuals. Right in the next slide. Such a belief in the later times must have emerged in a large pantheon of gods, in polytheism, wherein different bodily and functional aspects are assigned to individual supernatural beings. Read that sentence to yourself. It clearly shows that we are talking about God who is created by man. Specialization in the gods. I'll show you something. I was finding this small thing somewhere. Look at this. This is one of the definitions of supernatural. The spiritual realm beyond human existence that is thought to control the natural world. See, natural world may be perhaps controlled by the humans as well. There is a possibility, though not infinite possibility, there is a possibility that the natural world can be, at least to a certain extent, be guided, dictated by the humans also. So when I say cloud seeding, you are dictating. Or in several other ways, you are able to actually dictate. So in a desert, if you are trying to create a forest, you are dictating the nature with your human intelligence. That's the reason why that word comes there, spiritual realm. Spiritual realm beyond the capability of the humans. So it means that when we are talking about, when we are recognizing the existence of supernatural, we simultaneously recognize that humans have a limited control over things. So there could be certain other forces that have much greater control on the forces of nature, not simply the forces of nature, maybe on your own life as well. I'll show you something. Once I do that, I'll come back to this same screen. We'll have a small talk on that also. So don't get me wrong when I'm showing you certain discourses, etc. we are not here to propagate any religion. It's only to pick up certain ideas from this. I'll have to make sure again and again. But as a response to what we are talking in the class, if you're taking a stand, that's your problem. I said something. I don't think I got it for you. It will take some time. In the meantime, you finish this one. So I was saying that this was the definition of supernatural. Look at the second one again. The unusual experiences that lack scientific explanation, lack a scientific explanation, or phenomena alleged to be outside the science current capability to explain. That man is trying to explain things maybe with chemistry. What is the chemical formula of God? What God might be constituting. So from a chemical thing, he might be going into a biological thing. That's how the whole thing is. There are several chemicals that must have got together and become a biological entity. We'll go back to what you have written there. Read the last sentence. In polytheism, what we said is that different gods for which you are attributing or assigning particular physical forms and functions as well. I love Hinduism for the colorful gods. A painter we can experiment with so much of his imagination. And by now all the Ganesh idols that are erected, you can see. Here I do not want to say this, but basic nature doesn't change. The other day some news was there saying that some district collector, and then in the district collector's hands, Lord Ganesha. I don't know what it is. It's only that gods are also in the hands of the officers. Or maybe I can use it the other way. Gods are at the mercy of the officers. So when you have endowment departments to be taken care of, everything might. So this man seems to be very powerful. Sleeping on such a beautiful bed. So I think Hinduism comes up with a very interesting imagination. We'll show something else also. Look at that. It's not simply the categorization of the gods. We have categories of demons also. Heights of imagination. That is said as Mahishasura. And then that is Kali, Kala. And then those are the other people. Some Danava fellow, some Ravan, whom I really love. Just imagine we have more than one head. So much of UPSC preparation. A single brain is actually insufficient. I got shocked the other day when my little fellow was saying, "Mummy, mera mind काम नहीं कर रहा है." I was wondering what at 4 years he is actually trying to understand. Mind काम नहीं कर रहा. What does it mean by काम कर रहा है? What does it mean by नहीं काम कर रहा है? Kind of a thing. Don't know. And after attaining such an age, many times our mind gets switched off. I actually wanted to show you this thing today. Especially for those who did not know what are all the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. Ask for forgiveness to your gods and see how many of them are human forms, how many are pre-human forms. It looks as if God himself is getting evolved through the incarnations. Like starting from Matsya to others. So finally getting into human form. In human also he is trying to get an excellence there. It's an arguable thing. Who is a much excellent fellow, whether Rama or Krishna? Technically, for me, Krishna is coming later to Rama, so Krishna should be more evolved than Rama. Krishna should be more evolved than Rama. Rama excelled in managing only one female, Krishna excelled in managing a lot of them. So when the skill is improving, it means that he must have. And then you have other people also, Buddha, and we are waiting for him. Kalki should come on which vehicle? White horse. Which color is Kalki in? Black. Don't know. I loved this thing. Many times we end somewhere. Can I go? I wanted to show you a small video. Because there is a confusion, we don't ask questions. The more we ask questions, the more confused we are. See, if you are listening to the lecture only once, there is less confusion. Listening to the same lecture again and again, there is more confusion. If one question you have asked, first time you have listened to me, fine, some doubt is there, you ask a question, I complicate the things. So more are the questions, more is the complication. The moral of the story is, so intelligent you people are. Give me a minute of time, don't mind. There is one small question answer thing.
Hello, my name is Ethan Kaiser. I am a scientist and an atheist. And my question is, since the Bible has been scientifically disproven as far as all the claims, through evolution, the theory of evolution, archaeology, Noah's Ark, Adam and Eve, since we know this didn't happen because of our science nowadays, my question is, how do we have, according to the Bible, how do we have free will if God is this omniscient being that knows everything about us, everything we will do, and he pretty much knows our outcome before we're even created. So he creates us knowing everything we'll do. Since we can't surprise him by our actions, we have no free will. Our choices have been predetermined, and that the act of judgment is completely immoral because he knows what we're going to do. Nothing can surprise him. That's my question.
Thank you for the question. And before you go into an auditorium, if you give a sheet of paper and ask us to write 20 possible questions, that'll come. We've never heard a new one in all of these years that go by. They're pretty much the same questions. It's interesting that you began by saying, as an atheist, all of this has been disproved, and so you live with scientific materialism as your worldview. I studied under John Polkinghorne at Cambridge University. You probably know the name. One of the world's leading quantum physicists who came to exactly the opposite conclusion you did while being the dean at Queen's College, Cambridge, as a quantum physicist, taking the same data you did. So obviously, for a man of his intellectual ability to come to a different conclusion, one would either have to say he's totally stupid to come to that conclusion, or else his empirical basis. Please don't keep shaking your head. Let me finish so that you can come and talk afterwards. So allow us to concentrate what we're saying here. I want to read for you what David Berlinski says about the scientific naturalistic worldview. Do you know who he is? No. One of the world's leading physicists who is an agnostic, borders on atheism, but took issue with Richard Dawkins's book, The God Delusion, and wrote a book called The Devil's Delusion. Here's what he said. Has anyone ever provided proof of God's inexistence? Not even close. Has quantum cosmology explained the emergence of the universe or why it is here? Not even close. Have the sciences explained why our universe seems to be fine-tuned to allow for the existence of life? Not even close. This is Berlinski talking. Are physicists and biologists willing to believe in anything as long as it is not religious thought? Close enough. Has rationalism and moral thought provided us with an understanding of what is good, what is right, and what is moral? Not close enough. Has secularism in the terrible 20th century been a force for good? Not even close to being close. Is there a narrow and oppressive orthodoxy of thought and opinion within the sciences? Close enough. Does anything in the sciences or in their philosophy justify the claim that religious belief is irrational? Not even in the ballpark. Is scientific atheism a frivolous exercise in intellectual contempt? Dead on. Now, I didn't say that, all right? I'm not quoting myself. Please give me your name, sir. Ethan? Yes. Ethan, what you're wrestling with is not uncommon. Many people from a scientific and materialistic worldview will say what you've said and come to that conclusion. The problem is what you mispositioned was your concern between determinism and free will. Your application could have gone in many different directions, but you came to that one for some reason, which I was unfortunate, I think. At Cambridge, I listened to a talk at the Lady Mitchell Hall in 1990 by Stephen Hawking. As you know, he can't speak. He uses a speech synthesizer. His whole talk was on determinism and freedom. And you know what he concluded? That the tragedy with scientific materialism, if we take its assumptions, is that we are not free, we are totally determined. That was the world's leading physicist at that time saying, the very thing you're asking of the Christian faith, he pinned on your backs as scientific materialists. You can go right online and trace it. Lady Mitchell Hall, 1990, somewhere on March, April, May, that time I was in attendance. And he said, the only escape I have is since I don't know what has been determined, I may as well not be. The whole auditorium moaned and groaned with an escape hatch that he gave for himself after telling us that we were completely determined. That's Berlinski's issue. That is actually even what people like Dawkins will concede, or Pinker. You read Steven Pinker and the others. So totally determined. So the question is, were you free to ask this question? Yep.
I don't believe any of us actually have free will because we are strictly material.
So you're actually, as a machine automaton, asking me this question?
We are all made up of our past experiences.
Okay, but you're not free then. You're not free. You're not making a truth statement.
My truth statement. I mean, what I'm saying is our memories and our states.
No, hear me carefully.
Okay.
If you're totally determined,
yes,
you're pre-wired to think the way you do.
Nature versus nurture, yes.
Sorry?
Nature versus nurture.
Nature versus nurture.
Yes.
Regardless,
okay.
The nurture may provide a different environment, but
sure.
The nature is you're hardwired to come out with a certain conclusion. Out of flux, nothing but flux. You know, what you put into the computer, ultimately is going to come out. But you have to ask yourself, are you making a truth claim? If you are making a truth claim, you're rising above the bondage of total subjectivity. And the moment you claim a truth claim, you're violating determinism. And so I just leave you with that. And let's meet afterwards. Hey, Ethan, we want to chat with you. You know, you're the kind of guy we come here for. So afterwards, you come here and we'll chat with you. Come here, give me a shake hand. Bless his love. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. You know, I live in a condominium where there's so much of noise that sometimes goes on, and I phoned the property manager and said, you know, when I write, even the sound of anything distracts me. And so she said, play some music. I said, what? You know, so that's why I'm sorry if I checked you on the shaking of the head. If I get distracted, I can't stay on track. You know, so my apologies on that.
You can back home, listen to that 5 minutes talk again. What are the kinds of questions that he's putting across? Just, something like a food to the mind. You can ponder over certain things, certain questions. I love this man primarily because he's an Easterner. Talking about the other world in the other part of the world. He's trying to teach the Westerners what their faith is. Meaning that certain things which you have, like most of us have lost our own faith, whether it could be Hindu faith or whatever. The problem is what we have left, others started picking up. And whatever benefit we must have had from our own scriptures and from our own valuable ancient books, maybe others are making a benefit of it. And I also recommend his 1 or 2 talks towards the end of your course. One is for the kind of language that he uses. If you want to go learn good English, I mean from an Indian for that matter, from a Westerner, I don't think it is really interesting for us. From an Indian, from an Easterner, if at all you would want to learn good English, this is one man. And logically putting things, whether they are correct or incorrect, that's a different thing. But when you are able to put across things in a logical way, that can help you win arguments. How to frame your arguments, you can learn from him. Anyways, I don't think you minded when I have, we are not protagonists of any faith for that matter. I have to be extra cautious whenever I use certain. So we were a little while ago watching certain pictures. I'll show you a couple of more pictures. So there were certain other interesting, maybe sometime in your life you would want to see them. You can gauge the height of that fellow by looking at the humans here. Height of that statue. And there is the other statue here. Don't know why he is called a laughing Buddha. And then there is something else. The accommodative spirit of Hinduism. It's like the same experiment. You try to hand over the security to the thief. Hand over the security to the thief. Now he would feel responsible. Now he had challenged the faith. And you say that forget about whatever we have done to you, you are the God for us. And you are the incarnation of the Lord Vishnu. And you start worshipping him, silencing him. And slowly we see that they also become a part of us, or a large part of ours, they accept. Those are some of the pictures I wanted you to see. There are various other pictures that I will be sharing with you. This presentation I will send to you. You can, I loved the imagination of this person. This was something they wrote about Islam. What is the difference between different supernatural entities? There can be devils, demons, zombies, snakes, etc. And that may be Iblis, the one on the right hand side. If somebody had to imagine what an Iblis looks like, the general interpretation is that you show a snake. So maybe the longest one, and then very dreadful eyes, etc., longest tongue kind of a thing. So something like a Saturn. Look at the last one. So that could be, so heights of imagination actually. Every religion comes with such imaginations. Somebody was asking this. Things start to change once you are exposed to maybe technology. Somehow, for a few natural things you start finding answers. It goes like this. For example, I consider naturalism as the originating point of religion. There was an ignorance of what's going on around you. Why does the rain occur, and how does a sun come and go, kind of things. As long as there is a confusion, there is lack of understanding, you start worshipping them. What you don't understand, you worship. Look at that. What you don't understand, you worship. So as long as she doesn't come into your life, you are worshipping her. Once she is there in your life, you. That's why we say ignorance is bliss. It's always better you maintain your secrets. Don't every time advertise your secrets. Make them known to the rest of the world, especially to him or her in a loudspeaker. Don't do that. Retain your secrets with yourself, you will have a respect for the lifetime. So something that is actually not understood, you try to worship. But once the natural phenomena is understood, people start questioning the existence of supernatural. So whether the belief in the so-called scientific temper and reason, whether scientific temper and reason are able to give the solutions to the answers, that's where is the test between science and religion. This was the central theme of Fraser. This was also something that was indirectly dealt with by Levi Strauss. So we will continue to write on that. Keep writing, sir. The second one, animatism or monism. Animatism or monism. Where did I stop? Just let me see. I'm so sorry. और थोड़ा लिखना है. और थोड़ा. We'll after that go to animatism. We'll have to slightly conclude, Taylor. Polytheism over a period of time. Polytheism over a period of time gave rise to monotheism, that is, belief in one single God. By placing monotheism at the top of evolution, at the top of evolutionary chain, by placing monotheism at the top of evolutionary chain, Taylor demonstrated ethnocentrism, apart from suggesting a unilinear sequence of evolution of religion. He believed that pre-literate religious beliefs and practices were not ridiculous. They were essentially consistent and logical, based on rational thinking and empirical knowledge. Right, in the next one, second one. Animatism or monism. According to it, all the animistic and non-animistic things have a soul that has a power. It seems to be a continuation. It seems to be a continuation of Taylor's animism. Of Taylor's animism. The theory believes in the difference in the inner force, or mana, in different things and beings. More is the mana, more powerful the entity will be. More powerful the entity will be. This can form the basis. Of arranging supernatural forces and beings, in a hierarchical order. Right in the brackets. On these lines, Hinduism can be seen as a combination of animism and animatism. Is that okay? Right, the third one. Fraser's theory. James Fraser in his book, The Golden Bough, presented religion from a different perspective. Than the other classical evolutionists. He was not tracing religions of different forms. For example, from animism to monotheism. Instead, his focus was on the reasons and circumstances for the emergence of religion, as a unit. His theory dealt with before and after religion. That is, he gave the sequence of magic, to religion, to science, narrating the characteristics of each of them, the characteristics of each of them. His theory did not deal with the period after science, and failed to accommodate reasons for the simultaneous presence of magic, religion and science. Continue writing there. His emphasis was on magical practices across culture groups, and the role played by religious functionaries such as priests and shamans, SHAMAN. We in tomorrow's class will see certain pictures of these people. His emphasis was on magical practices across culture groups and role played by religious functionaries such as priests and shamans in religious and social activities. For him, magic laid the spiritual foundations of human societies. Write the next one. Naturalism. You wrote 3 so far. One is Taylor, the second one is some basic idea of animatism, and the third one was Fraser. Number 4, naturalism. It refers to an understanding presented by Max Muller. That is, earliest form of religion must have been the worship of objects of nature, comma, the evidence for which was provided by him from the archaeological excavations of earliest civilizations such as Egypt. For Max For Max Muller, worship of forces of nature must have been due to number one, failure to understand the scientific reason behind the natural phenomena. Secondly, supported by ignorance, the kind of language use attributes reverence and respect to the forces of nature. See, he gives a whole list of things. For example, referring to Egyptian thing, they have the sun god. Sun was the earliest kind of and the most powerful force of nature they worship. So the kind of language that we use, like sun rises in this direction, sun sets in that direction, and this terminology seems to be equally valid for most of the languages. So it shows that sun is powerful of doing this, or sun has he follows a particular rule that must have been set for himself. So when the kind of vocabulary we are using, that shows that it's not simply our ignorance, but then it also occasionally shows that, okay, we are trying to be respectful towards the forces of nature, the kind of so when we see the societies that are worshipping the forces of nature, there is a lot of reverence there, and it is not simply that ritualism comes up in a respect to the forces of nature. So we can actually attribute to Hinduism also. We see the naturalism also existing in Hinduism, starting from the Surya Vandana that we do early in the morning. So every force of nature gets its position in the pantheon somewhere or the other. To keep writing there. The idea of use of language, strengthening a reverence and belief towards the forces of nature, was criticized by functionalists. Nevertheless, Fraser with the information from hundreds of societies, and Max Muller from his secondary source-based study of nature, study of worship of nature, could bring commonalities in the way humans respond to the unknown the unexplained, the fearful, and the mysterious. Right, in the next one, number 5. Functionalistic theory of religion. Functionalistic theory of religion. Nadel refers to the four chief functions of religion. Number 1, religion has the capacity of certain supplements to the view of the world of experience. Continue writing there. The inputs may be from the cosmological aspect. Secondly, religion has a capacity to announce and maintain moral values. Thirdly, it has the competence to hold together the societies and sustain their structure. Fourthly, it furnishes individuals with specific stimulation, bringing a common consciousness in a culture group. Continue writing there. Durkheim defined religion based on the constituents of religion. His functionalism was different from that of Malinowski and Brown. For him, religion constitutes beliefs and rituals that bring social cohesion. Keep writing that. All religions presuppose a classification of things as real and ideal, real and ideal, or the sacred and profane. The sacred and profane. This distinction based on sacred and profane forms the basis of religion. It is not similar to purity and impurity. It is not similar to purity and impurity. Instead, sacred refers to anything connected to religion. Anything connected to religion. Profane falls outside the realm of religion. In other words, sacred encompasses a common belief system of a community, or a common belief system of a community. And profane refers to an individual and private matters. Right in the next paragraph. Rituals according to Durkheim are the rules of conduct that prescribe how people should behave in the presence of sacred things. And accordingly, the behaviors are categorized into positive and negative. Positive behavior in the rituals ensures sustenance and well-being of the society. Continue writing. Durkheim linked sacredness with sacred symbols or totemism. From his study of Australian Aborigines, he narrated the relation between a clan-based social structure and the totems. it is generally found that wherever clans exist, totems by default shall exist. But not the vice versa. He explored different practices associated with totems and sacredness, and believed that sacredness is contagious. He also linked totemistic belief with naturalism, as some of the totems are clan ancestors or clan ancestors emerge from the natural environment. This is also responsible for a harmonious living of the primitive man with the nature. It's as simple as it is. When you have a clan elder, clan ancestor, you are not supposed to damage, hurt, kill your ancestor. So you would conserve. So if you belong to, say, a deer clan, you don't kill the deer, but you preserve it. But from Australian Aborigines, he was narrating one story where there is some XYZ ancestor of a clan. And they have a mythological story. See, if somebody asks simply, that why is it that you are not killing one particular animal or a life form, you may say that we consider them to be our ancestor. That should be fine. And for showing that ancestry, you might be having some kind of a story. So far it is understandable. But here the story that is narrated by him is slightly on the other side of the extreme. He was talking about a family of several sons and a father. I have used these terms in cannibalism in other class. We used one word called gustatory cannibalism. So the story goes this way. There are so many, 4 or 5 sons who nurtured this desire of consuming the parent. And one fine day they did. After they had done that, they started feeling the guilt. Many times we do that. After having committed the sin, we start feeling guilty. We know that things can't be changed after that. After you finished consuming your parent, you can't bring him back. So they moan, and then finally they decided that they would consider one particular animal from their environment as their ancestor and start protecting it, start worshipping it. Till here it is fine. I mean, maybe that it's human nature. Sometimes you feel that way to consume people. You consumed, fine, because the opportunity was there. And then there is a guilt, and hence you said that, okay, this is going to be my replica of my father, a boar or something like that, and I start worshipping it. Maybe they could have left the story there. No, it doesn't end there. The continuation is that throughout the year they won't consume that ancestral animal. But one day in a year, they have this freedom of consuming the ancestor, meaning ancestral animal, to commemorate the death of their parent. So it's like once you have sinned, you continue to do the sin every year. If not your original father, the replica of your father you would be consuming on an annual basis. Anyways, that was one of the stories. We'll continue with the other one. Continue writing there. For Durkheim, God and society are the names of the same entity. In the sense that both of them are superior to the individual, and individuals depend on both of them. And every individual must submit to the rules created by the gods and the society. Full stop. For him, in worshipping supernatural, the man indirectly worships his own society. His discussions, Durkheim's discussions, hardly deal with the supernatural, but discuss about how the societal order shall be maintained. And the supremacy of the society shall be protected. Right, in the next paragraph. Malinowski and Brown developed the ideas of religion through participant observation. They were both opposite to social evolution, but had grounded their ideas in the concept of cultural relativism. According to them, anthropologists should stop focusing on the origins of religion and shall deal with how religions spread through diffusion and how cultural elements, including the understanding of supernatural, spread from one culture group to the other. For them, religion, like any other cultural elements, delivers certain functions. Right in the next paragraph. Malinowski's functionalism explored the savage societies. He did not agree that savages, right in the quotes, are the living fossils of the past societies. He partially agreed with the Taylor's idea of rational man. He believed that religion emerged from the questions of the primitive man, and the way different societies found answers gave rise to different world views. In his own understanding of functionality of religion, of functionality of religion, Malinowski proposed that, right in quotes, religion explains the unexplained. Religion explains the unexplained. Unquote. And religion has a psychological dimension. Religion has a psychological dimension. That is, fear of unknown gives rise to belief and worship of supernatural. Belief and worship of supernatural. Continue writing there. In his theory of needs, he considers religion as a derived need, that is, by delivering the listed functions, religion integrates the society. Continue writing in the next paragraph. Inspired by Fraser's golden bough and Durkheim's rituals, Malinowski narrated different magico-religious rituals among Trobriand islanders. Accordingly, the complexity of rituals varies based on the function it has to render. He brought out the differences between coastal fishing related rituals and high sea fishing rituals. It meant that more is the danger, more elaborate the rituals are. Right in the next paragraph. For Radcliffe Brown, religion can be used to compare different societies and their social structures A society's fixed religious belief, a society's fixed religious beliefs and practices maintain the social order. Brown's proposition was at a time when anthropology was attempting to validate itself as a scientific discipline. He tried to find universally applicable functions of religion. Inspired by Durkheim, he focused on rituals and symbols. According to him, rituals are a mechanism of a society worshipping itself and keeping itself intact. Right in the next paragraph. Apart from this, religion offers a general social structure to the society. Cultural diffusion and the internal factors can bring change in any general social structure, including religion. He differed from Malinowski's approach of incorporating psychological explanations. Full stop, keep writing there. His explanations of rituals bringing cohesion in the group can be compared with the integrative needs of Malinowski. Right in the next line. functionalism in general is criticized for presenting different cultural elements as if to maintain a status quo. And they fail to recognize the inherent friction and existing discontent in other words, they did not take into account the dysfunctions of various culture traits, including religion. Right, the last sentence there. Such a criticism was partially addressed when Malinowski described the variants of magic such as black and white magic. Such a categorization was absent in the case of religion. Full stop. Go back, quickly give a reading of the last couple of pages. Are you fine? I thought I would just share some pictures of a student that he or she was drawing in the class. Sir, whenever you are writing an answer, don't do that. You need not have to say that you are introducing a topic or concluding. He understands that you are introducing and concluding. That is fine. Two things I wanted you to look for in this script. One is the handwriting that is so very legible. It's as if he is printing or typewriting, he or she, I don't know. And the pictures are also so very elegantly drawn. Very clear, understandable. If this person is here, I congratulate him or her for especially the pictures. So whenever you are finding it difficult to draw skulls, you look at your neighbor, you will be able to draw. Look at him or her with a lot of love. Don't allure them, but those are some of the pictures. And the same person in that first question was trying to draw such huge maps we don't want actually. I love you drawing India map, but not that way or this way. In fact, this question was that comment on the geographical spread of Homo erectus. My idea was that you would show the world map, within the world map different sites. This would actually eat up a lot of space, not required actually. And my idea was that you would incorporate ideas like what's the problem, why is it that so many variants are found, and it's different regions are providing erectus fossil. Can we confirm to out of Africa theory or not? Whether they were varying in their physical features, whether there is a variation in their tool typology, such kind of things we were actually expecting you to write. Nevertheless, the handwriting, you can't stop yourself from giving some marks at least. And I'll show you some more here. Some scripts I have seen, the other ones also. Your drawings are like you're making a proper pencil art. It was only that you are not sleeping under it, but otherwise you are showing. I love it. No, I'm not criticizing this picture. Headstones. So it's like a three-dimensional image is given. My only request is you just check what is there's a spelling error there. So, what's the time that you're taking to do all this? If you are able to do within the stipulated time, it is well and good. Otherwise, you will have to slightly modify, or maybe you'll have to increase the speed of drawing. So I don't want you to compromise on. See, some skill you have, I don't want you to stop using and showing off that skill. After all, when you have something, you'll have to show off. But do it at a faster pace. Then serious ga anna meer joke esan anukuntaru. That is the problem. When I'm appreciating also, you take it negatively. This was one more, and this person had written a very beautiful answer for this question. Contributions of H.D. Sankalia. I haven't seen such a beautiful answer in any other scripts. Though he was using the same stuff that we are sharing with all of you. And this map could be a little smaller. But that's how, and many more excavations you can name the field he has, name the region he has excavations. He was not personally digging, but then he was assisting, guiding several people. So you can fill the entire India map with his excavations. No? If you don't know that particular place, you put a dot. Definitely his site will be there. This is okay. Now what's it? एक और था. Just be patient for a minute. I just wanted to show one more, just for a comparison. Once again, I am not trying to criticize, belittle anybody. That sentence, I wanted you to see whether the word can be written there. We don't call erectus an extinct species. If at all you want to write this statement, erectus is an extinct hominin ancestor of Homo sapiens that existed so and so, you will have to quote somebody there. If at all somebody had said that erectus got extinct, if at all that was extinct, and you are also parallelly saying that it was our ancestor, that is a confusion actually. Is it that some of the people became and some others are extinct? So whose view is that? This handwriting was very difficult for me actually. I will be showing several other much more difficult handwritings. I mean, इसमें तो फिर भी ठीक है. अगर मैप थोड़ा और बड़ा हो जाता तो लुत्फ आ जाता. A lot of guess. अब इसको देखकर मत हंसिए, आपके मैप्स तो और भी, no? You'll have to appreciate that the person was writing. Those who are not writing do not have a right to laugh. ये फिर भी ठीक था. I mean, all that he was giving, pictures अगर और अच्छे हो जाते, ये तो मेरे choice of the words have to be very. Australopithecus is an extinct hominid that existed so and so. It is conspired by anthropologists such as Coopin, Walker. All those are creating a conspiracy. Maybe by हो सकता है कि गलती से निकल गया हो word. I am showing this only to caution you. I am not criticizing the person. It's a caution that when you are using some word, you should observe a caution. Sometimes it may backfire and hold you tight around your neck. So it is conspired by anthropologists such as so and so and others to be a definite ancestor. So appropriately you will have to change that particular. This is only to tell you that you may also do such kind of damaging things. अच्छा वो मेनहिर वगैरह तो आपने देख लिया. Again don't laugh. These are the menhirs and alignments. वहां पर फिर भी आपको दिख रहा है कि कुछ आपने ड्रॉ किया. Here he will have to search that you have drawn something. इतना भी स्टैम्प साइज मत रखिए, थोड़ा सा बड़ा कर कर. नहीं था और ये फिर भी ठीक है. आई अप्रिसिएट दिस वन. इंडिया प्रॉपरली एंड देन ठीक है. So I actually advise you to start practicing the India and world map properly. अच्छा ये एक और स्क्रिप्ट बताना था. Not from your batch but you will have to cross check with the number of words that you are writing per page. If at all you haven't done so far. ये वाला एक था, बहुत स्पेसिंग भी है, बहुत बड़ा बड़ा भी है, and if I am counting it was not coming to about 75 words, in certain pages about 50 words. You will not be able to write wholeheartedly. Writing wholeheartedly is very important, meaning that you will have to be more elaborate where necessary, and throwing points at the examiner is very dangerous, and writing with those arrow marks that I have been telling in many of the scripts. Don't write like this. Either you properly number them 1 2 3 ABC कुछ करो. ये तो फिर भी arrow mark है. कुछ लोग तो ऐसे line marker लिखेंगे, 1 line 1 dash ऐसा लिखेंगे and then 1 sentence. आपको जो समझना है समझ लो, kind of a thing. The poor fellow examiner, don't test him, otherwise he will test you. Occasionally what you do is, occasionally at least, what you do is you pick up your own handwriting from your class. कभी कभी तो पढ़ते होगे ना class notes. हाँ. When you do that, you try to see whether it is legible or not to your own selves. जैसा कि आपने एक चीज लिखा, originally you understand that that is Nadal, it is A, but when you are putting this, whether it looks like the same letter or not, whether A looks like A, L looks like L, S looks like S, many times S becomes R or R becomes I, and T you actually don't have a stroke. Stroke 1 किलोमीटर के बाद होगा या पहले होगा. You are very futuristic. पहले stroke दे दिया, बाद में T लिख लिया. So in handwritings you will have to. वो हो गया. थोड़े थोड़े और small things are there. You will write about them. We will start with the smaller one, myth and ritual. Then I will come to symbolism in religion, which is slightly a bigger one. Myth and ritual. जी sir, some problem? Write down, sir. Myth. Myths are defined as stories that represent a serious quest for an understanding and explanation of life and nature. Quote unquote, Franz Boas. Understanding and explanation of life and nature. Underline the word stories. Myths are the stories that represent a serious quest for understanding nature. Long time back we have defined myths, if you could recall, in the earliest classes. Can you recall? Myths are untrue stories that are made to be believed so that you maintain the status quo. You have, in that definition, the writer very clearly was mentioning that these are untrue stories. He's trying to establish that they are untrue stories. But if you look at this particular definition, Franz Boas is not confirming that they are untrue or true. They are stories peculiar to that culture group, so that they provide some kind of an understanding about the nature, about their own society. Keep writing, sir. Myths reveal the things that members of society have found to be necessary to believe in spite of finding them impossible to validate empirically. Write in the brackets, Malinowski. Bracket close. Myths exist in all spheres of societies. Myths exist in all spheres of societies, such as political, academic, economic, and religion. Many times, myths from a particular aspect of the society gain significance, giving rise to a specific social order. Giving rise to a specific social order. Write in the brackets. For example, myth of Purusha Sukta. Myth of Purusha Sukta. Bracket close. With the advent of science, and increasing rationalism, Myths came to be questioned. Myths came to be questioned. But for anthropologists, they are still important to understand culture. According to them, myths are culture specific. Myths are culture specific. For non-members of the culture, they may look to be illogical and non-existing. But myths are necessary to understand fantasies of the people. They may mostly contrast with the original history and chronological order of events. But for anthropologists, they provide a glimpse of mental aberrations of primitive man. Right in the brackets, Durkheim. Right in the next paragraph. Myths along with magic and religion. Provide a testimony to the ways in which primitive man was unsound in intellect and understanding scientific reasons behind events. Right in the next paragraph. In anthropology, three different approaches are found in the study of myths. That is functionalism, symbolism, and structuralism. In contemporary cultural anthropology, several symbolic anthropologists declare themselves as structuralists. Hence, currently, functionalism and structuralism are used in explaining myths. Functionalist approach of Durkheim explained myths based on the value a myth has for that society. For example, a common belief in a myth can serve reinforcing the community and justifying social order. For example, Malinowski's study of dog and pig clans in Trobriand Islanders provides explanations for the existing and changed hierarchy. Right in the next line. Though irrational, and though myths are believed or not believed, they seem to carry certain social functions that make them relevant for an anthropological study. Malinowski puts forth the functions of myth as number one, myths legitimize the social structure and help in preparing a charter for the institutions. Secondly, they provide justification. For an expected behavior in the society. Thirdly, they exhibit a social power to bring social solidarity. Thus, Malinowski brings out the socio-political role played by the myths According to him, myths are not restricted to the savage societies, and neither are they survivals of the past. Neither are they survivals of the past. Their continuation, in spite of illogical nature, reveals an unexplained desire for human to believe in things that may be unreal, and may be difficult to comprehend. It is here the explanations of Levi Strauss, on mental structures can be extended to understand how myths form a uniform mental process. I would stop there. We'll frame a conclusion for it in tomorrow's class, and we'll go to write about ritual. Finish your planner. I had asked you to read about evolution of fieldwork traditions. Evolution of fieldwork traditions from AN03. Whatever techniques are mentioned there, please go through them. Secondly, we dealt with approaches of religion, evolutionary and functional approaches. Thirdly, we started with myths and rituals. I also asked you to read from your Dropbox the topics number 39 and 40. On religion. That's all. Have a good day.